Sarah Palin will stand up to anyone to defend her baby, except anyone who might help her politically. After calling for White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel to be fired for using a phrase behind closed doors, which she calls heartbreaking to special needs kids and their families, she is refusing to call for the same measures against Republicans who use that word or variations on it, even on national radio or TV. This weekend, she will be campaigning for a man whose top campaign aide has used that word repeatedly directly to journalists. But first, tonight's new developments after the Plumline blog called Palin's attention to the fact that Orly Tate's Limbaugh, too, used the word, glorified in it. While referring to the Emanuel story, Palin's spokeswoman issued a statement that did not call for Limbaugh to be fired or even apologize, and if you read it carefully, does not, in fact, criticize Limbaugh at all. Quote, Governor Palin believes crude and demeaning name-calling at the expense of others is disrespectful, and yet never has the integrity to stand up for her son and say that Limbaugh, just like Emanuel, actually did this. Republican number 2 who can say the word, Texas campaign consultant Dave Carney, whose repeated use of this word even directly to reporters called into question yesterday, has not led Palin to call for his resignation from the campaign of Texas Governor Rick Perry, for whom Palin herself will be campaigning this weekend. And Republican number 3, you can use the word, not once like Emanuel's, not privately like Emanuel, but repeatedly on national television, on national radio, laughing about it, and it's perfectly fine with Sarah Palin. That would be Fox News host Glenn Beck, whose uses of the word were literally too numerous for us to present in their entirety in our time allotted tonight, but to whom Ms. Palin gave a lengthy interview just last month after a year of Beckian commentary that included the following.
Governor Schwarzenegger attempted a huge bluff by saying that firefighters and police and teachers are going to lose their jobs and rapists are going to be roaming the streets of California and all of the California children are suddenly going to become retarded or something like that.
We know now she wasn't retarded.
But I also like painting of retarded children and paintings of the insane. So,
How much of the painting of the retarded?
Who's laughing in the background?
No, we're not laughing. We're just imagining that those would be nice. What do the paintings of the retarded children go for? Because I've been looking for one of those, and I haven't seen them.
Any segue being out of the question, let's just turn to MSNBC's political analyst Richard Wolff, also the author of Renegade, The Making of a President. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
All right, correct me on this if I'm mistaken, but in Palin's statement, she basically said calling people that is not acceptable, but she did not actually say she thought Limbaugh had done that and therefore would have fallen into the unacceptable category. Am I more or less correct here?
Yeah, more or less correct. I mean, what would have been consistent, and not that consistency has always been Sarah Palin's strong point, what would have been consistent would have been maybe a Facebook entry along the lines of what she wrote about Rahm Emanuel. Are you capable of decency, Rush Limbaugh or Glenn Beck? I'll leave you to answer that one. But the question here for her, and for those who love her, is this question of does she have the guts to stand up for what she believes in? And no matter whether it's Rush Limbaugh or Glenn Beck or anyone else, because if you can't stand up to a talk radio host, then how are you going to confront Putin when he rears his head?
Eventually, somebody will ask her about, say, Beck's repeated and public and gleeful use of this word, or press her about Limbaugh's use of it. What does she say then?
Well, here's the tough thing. Of course, for a start, it's hard for journalists to press her because it's a one-way communication. Facebook does not exactly constitute a press conference. But the problem for her, the challenge for her, is that essentially, however authentic and meaningful and heartfelt her original sentiment was, she is taking a quote-unquote politically correct point of view. She is trying to, in the eyes of folks like Limbaugh and Beck, restrict their free speech. This is not a tack you can take with those folks. And by the way, it's not a tack you can take for the libertarian wing of the Republican Party that forms the Tea Party folks who are paying to hear her speak at their annual convention. So, you know, politically it doesn't make any sense for her. And that, I think, is why you're seeing this supposedly authentic politician become just yet another conventional politician.
Her fans have, some of them, split away from her over the way she treated them on her book tour and endorsing John McCain. Somebody will hear eventually that she's been giving money politically to Lindsey Graham, who is the bane of the Tea Party, and now here she is once again, using her child to try to beat up the White House when it's clear that she doesn't care when her political buddies and her Fox colleagues are far more guilty of the same offense. Is there a point, is there a tipping point in terms of doing damage with those who have supported her in the past?
Well, the greatest disappointment has got to be with those mothers who are families who are in the same situation as her, who thought she would be that advocate. But authenticity, the sort of genuine nature, the unvarnished nature of her, is her currency. That's her brand. And the more she has to create problems like this and try and get out of them, the more she's worried about offending certain people, the more she just looks like another career politician. And that ultimately is going to be her downfall. She has to take a stand and stick to it. That's what going rogue would really mean.
Richard Wolff of MSNBC, author of Renegade. As always, our great thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Keith.